All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson McKay.
And today's guest is Terrance T.Wrecks McKinney. Terrance is a professional fighter from Spokane, Washington. He trains at Warrior Camp Gym, located within Spokane. He was a standout high school wrestler. He would go on to wrestle at Chadron State College in Nebraska and North Idaho College. McKinney would have a scary encounter with death, his heart stopping 2 times after injuring himself on a bad mix of drugs and alcohol. This happened in 2015 when he was just 20 years old. He's since changed his life around and has now become a professional fighter chasing his dreams. McKinney would find himself in a matchup with Sniper Woodson on Dana White's Contender Series when he first started, where he lost a flying knee technical knockout in the second round. Terrance said in the events leading up to this that 5 years ago he had overdosed and died twice. 2 years ago he had made it to the UFC Contender Series and lost. 3 weeks ago he made his UFC debut and has now set a world record. Don't let mistakes and losses define you, he says. Every day is a new chance to be better than you were. He now has the fastest knockout in lightweight UFC history and is building towards becoming a legend in the sport. And in this interview, we discuss how he changed his life from infamy to fame, not letting your past define you and using your present to make a better future, how you can change your life right now and chase your own dreams, and so much more. And now, let's get to the interview. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's an absolute honor to have somebody like you. You've made a major transformation in your life and you've gone from near death to becoming a badass in the UFC. But for people who maybe don't recognize the name, could you give a quick introduction and why you're going to be a legend soon?
You guys, it's Terrance McKinney, and I hold the fastest knockout in the lightweight division of the UFC. And it's a pleasure to be on this podcast, man. I'm excited to get these questions going.
I love it, man. I love it. So, how did you start? Because you were like a wrestler in college. How did you start getting initially into sort of MMA? Was that before you got into trouble, or was the MMA like a sort of relief valve for you to get training and go on the right path?
Yeah, it was after I realized like what I want to do after I died. God showed me like in my trip like that I was supposed to fight, and I saw like heaven and stuff. So I was like, figured if I saw this fighting in my trip before I died, I said, I think this is what I'm supposed to do,
And how'd you go from that to almost dying to fighting 4 coppers to knocking out a guy in 7 seconds? That was amazing.
It's just all part of God's plan. Now, like something that I used to embarrass about is out here changing people's lives for the better, and that just warms my heart, and it's just incredible to be in this position to help bring people closer to God.
So how did you start sliding down that path? Because you said you went to college, you got in with the wrong crowd. When did it go from, it's maybe a bad habit to, okay, I've maybe got a problem, to, okay, I need to change my life? Was it a general slide?
Maybe when I got put in the hospital for the second time due to drugs.
And what can you remember from that point? Was it like, was there a sign that you noticed at the time? Was it something like, because I've got a strict mom, and she would have just ripped my balls off if I had done something like that, And
no,
your
she
mom
was like that. I just finally got the freedom, and I took advantage of it too much.
No, it's very easy done, isn't it? When you go away and you get to experience life on the other side, as we say. You know, plenty of young girls, a lot of drink about the place. So how did the police?
All kinds of distractions,
Were you misbehaving back then?
I was I was definitely all about trying to get to partying and just just my mindset was just all in the wrong places, you know.
So, what can you remember from like the actual incident itself? How did you deal with the feelings and how do you resonate with dying twice, being reborn, and taking your second chance, and now becoming a badass in the UFC? How do you come to terms with that? And do you deal with any regrets from it, or do you think that's the path that you're on, and you needed to go through it to become the man you are today?
I think I definitely need to go through those trials so I could stop looking for acceptance through my friends and finding love and peace in myself, and fighting helped me do that.
So how did you start getting that? Like, was there something that made you think, I don't need it from an external source. I can get it from this internal source. I'm all I need to be, because a lot of guys struggle with that.
Exactly, because I didn't grow up with a father involved, so I had to figure out what a man was to me. It's different for every other person, because they we all face different trials, and little do we know, we all been through something that can probably relate to each other that could help us heal. So what I had to do is just get right with my family and isolate myself so I can find out who I was. That way I can be the most successful person I can be versus
Because
risking my life or ending up in jail.
it's scary stuff, in it. Like when you're kind of saying, okay, I'm going to move aside. I'm going to leave that tribe of friends. They might be like the worst batch ever, or they might be great people, but it's, to say, no, I'm going on my own journey. I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to go and find that life for myself. And, you did an amazing transformation. You should be immensely proud of. So was there this spark, or was it just a general feeling that just kept coming, going, nah, that's not the life for me?
It
Was
was
it, were you in hospital?
it was always in there, I was just more passionate about trying to be that cool guy instead of being that guy that's a leader that people can look up to. I was doing it all wrong, I was out here trying to be John Jones when I should be trying to be like GSP.
I love the UFC analogy. So you mentioned not having a father figure growing up there. I mean, my dad wasn't exactly the most hands-on and very involved himself. What do you think that does to somebody as we're growing younger? Do you think we look for like gangs and other men to sort of fill that void? Do you think that's a dangerous thing, or how can you find mentors?
It's just hard because you start resenting like older people that try to tell you what to do, and it made it harder for me to realize like the stuff they were telling me was actually gonna make me a better man in the future. I had to humble myself and set my pride aside in the hurt and be willing to know that these guys are making example that you should be when you're a father someday. And I had to figure that out.
So, do you think a problem is that a lot of men have their addiction, their drug use, whatever, like their alcoholism becomes part of their identity? It becomes their story. It's who they think they are, and not a habit they can break. They actually think it's part of them, and they don't realize they can make that change.
Yeah, because you start getting into a routine, creating bad habits, and of course you start thinking you're that guy because people are like, yeah, man, I'm gonna be like, man, you crazy, man, hearing all that kind of stuff. You're a legend, it kind of makes them think like they're accepted, instead of looking for acceptance from their family or in God, they're looking for it at all the wrong places. And little do they know that they're trying to be like some other guy when really people want to be just like them.
So, how did you avoid like the lure of gangs and like to continue down that path? Because it's a fun path when you're drinking every night. You're with different girls, and you're doing all that kind of stuff. But how did you avoid that kind of thing and go, oh, I know, I want to go get beaten up in jiu-jitsu, I want to wrestle, I want to. it's not a common thing to jump from drinking to MMA.
Just staying motivated to show people like I'm not gonna let this event assign me. I'm better than what happened to me that night, and I wanted to show people that it's easy to give up, but it takes a real man to keep standing up and fighting. Because I could just gave up and kept doing the same thing, but I wanted better. I wanted to prove the doubters wrong who thought I was just gonna end up dead in jail, and and nothing's better than the bittersweet success, no better revenge.
So, say if somebody that's not aware of the story, how would you describe what happened? Could you give us a sort of like overview of the actual situation, how you got into that particular incident? How did the police become involved and stuff, just to sort of set the scene?
I ended up like doing like $3,000 worth of damage to these people's house, and I was punching car windows and hitting fences down. So I was like completely out of my mind, just destroying stuff. So the cops ended up being called and ended up getting tased a few times and wrestling with the cops for an hour and ended up dying in the back of the ambulance. So it was just a crazy night that I never ever wanted to experience again, because that could have been the end of my career. I could have been in jail for like 5 years with felony. So I just want to thank God for helping me get through all that unscathed.
It's an amazing change, man. When you watch the, like the UFC video they did on you, to realize you went from rock bottom to king of the castle. How do you think? Like, how did you start that stopping drugs? Was it cold turkey? Did you just take yourself complete, like you said, isolation, or did you relapse at all? Did you struggle to break those
It
habit
was
chains?
easy to get away from those other drugs because I know like, but I still like smoke and drink. I was still going to school, smoking and drinking. But I know I couldn't go past that because obviously I couldn't handle when I thought I could, and I had to realize that.
Do you think the drugs were kind of replacing that feeling of, you knew you were destined for something else, but you couldn't find that path. You weren't sure how to get onto it, so you were taking them as a kind of way to numb the feeling that there was this amazing Terrance, but you couldn't find how to get on that path.
Sort of, and I just heard like sometimes you get a spiritual journey, so I just wanted to dabble with it a little bit.
And were you always spiritual? I mean, I noticed you've mentioned serve God a lot in your interviews. You always give credit to like your spiritual side and your team, etc. But have you always been that, or was that part of your redemption journey, so to speak?
It was always like part of me growing up being in church, but definitely more now, like spiritual, not like religious. Like I'm not saying I'm going to church every day, just like creating my own relationship with God. Uh, just being humble, and eager to learn, and just knowing that anything could be taken at the blink of an eye. So I just take this all for a grain of salt and make sure I'm working twice as hard so I can build on this instead of living in the past.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? Is like we put these incidents as part of us. Like you say, like, oh, I did this, and then we beat ourselves up, and it's that can be like the jumping off stone to start your new path. Your new change. It doesn't define you. Like your past doesn't define you. You can make your own future, and you've gone and done that an amazing job of it. But do you ever struggle to stay on the right path, or now are you just so devoted into your training that you change one bad habit with another bad habit? Because I do jujitsu and I'm always sore, I'm always beaten up. But it's a strange habit to love. Do you think you're changing a bad habit with a good habit?
It's not that. It's just I'm just locked in, man. Like not only for myself, but I'm trying to do this for my family. I'm fighting for a bigger purpose. I'm fighting for the people who feel like they're alone or think they can't make it. If I can give them just a couple words to help them push through and be better, that's what I'm here to do. Not just fight, just change the world one person at a time.
Because I loved your message where you were saying you wanted to help people, you wanted to get other people who are going through that that journey. that they realised they could make a change. What advice would you give to people who are maybe starting on their own path just now, and they're finding they're using, they're drinking? I mean, I went through that stage, going to the pub every night, hating it, fed up of it, and coming home hungover and just like, I need more than this, but I just didn't know what to do. How would you advise people listening to kickstart that?
I would say quit telling yourself you're gonna do something, and why wait? Just start now. Like whenever that thought to your head, just start right there. Don't wait, man. Don't be afraid to reach out because that person right next to you might be going the same thing, and you guys can help benefit each other there.
Because you seem to have this amazing supportive family. Like it's your mom's always smiling. She's super proud of you. That the love and the warmth come across. But your coaches and your team seems to be also another family. So, what tips did you find works for finding a good gym, for finding good coaches? Because the love between you and your coach seems to be like really strong, and you
Yeah,
seem to be doing it as much for him as yourself.
yeah, exactly. At first, um, I was looking for like the best, biggest gym instead of having a family, someone that's gonna be there for you. Teammates that's gonna push each other to get better on and off the mat. Like if you're at a team, you're not hanging out with them. Is that really a team? A team should be a family. You should know like if I ask this guy, they can stay, they can roll up to the gym with me. Like you should have that kind of environment where you're like, oh, if I need a place to stay tonight, that's a teammate, man. That's just how I grew up, and I knew like what kind of coach I wanted after a few trials and error. I just looked for a coach that was like my high school coach. This guy was a family, and I saw what it did to the team. It made us a lot better because we connected, we died for each other.
So you were saying that when you were younger, you had wrestled. Do you think that's a great thing for guys to get into? Is the team sport dynamic? It's it gives you the brotherhood. It gives you the physical outlet. Like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. We should all get into some sort of level of combat sports or some physicality.
Yeah, or whatever sport you want, just to create that bond. I think is good. It's good for social growth, and it just feels good to relate to someone, and you get to feel cared for, and that's what a lot of people are missing, and you'll find that in your team, and so it's gonna be memories that you'll never forget.
And do you think that cross training has helped you become the fighter you are? Because you knocked out a guy in 7 seconds, but you're also like a very successful wrestler. And then you've mentioned in other interviews where you've gone and done some jiu-jitsu training because you didn't want to be left behind there. Do you think cross training the different disciplines has helped you? How do you keep evolving your skills the way you are?
It's because I'm never satisfied with any of them because the sport's always evolving, and as long as you remember that and be eager to learn and never think you got something down, you're gonna go very far in this fight game.
So can you explain a little bit about your training? I mean, like, because you must have had people texting and phoning you going, "Oh, how did you do that? That was amazing." How did you take what should have been a hard fight and make it look like it was just a warm up act? Like, how did you go? How do you start training for that? Does your training change when you fight, or when you're training like week in, week out? Or does it change when you approach your fights? Could you give a little sort of background into your general kind of training regime?
Um, like I tell people, my fight camp never ends until I have this belt. I take my days off to recover, let my body heal, but I pretty much live in the gym. That's just that's just what champions do. You should always be fight ready. Like if I ever get a call, just know I'm ready because I'm training every day for the belt, and that camp never going to end until I'm holding that and defending it.
So where does
So
that come from? Where does that intensity, that motivation, where like to go in every single day and give your all? Is it now knowing that you're on the right path, do you think?
it's more than that. It's just that's just how I was raised. Like, why do something if you're not going to try to be the best at it?
That's it.
And it's because I made my mom a promise, so I refused to let her down when she made a promise to me, and she created a better life for me and my brothers. So I'm gonna do the same thing for them. She laid the blueprint down, and I know what it takes to be the best, and I'm gonna put that work in.
She does seem a phenomenal woman, and I love the passion she has for you, and the way she's talking about you and on like interviews and videos I've seen. So, do you, when you go into training, how do you keep that longevity? How do you do this amazing amount of, like, I mean, I did 2.5 hours of jiu-jitsu last night, and I'm feeling like I'm being hit by a bus. How would you do that? Training 2 sessions a day, MMA, endurance, running. What
Um,
tips do you have?
it's because I just take my time recover. I like to use CBD product. I set up ice bath. Just make sure you're taking your recovery and your nutrition and everything just as much as you take the training aspect of the fight game. That's what I'll tell all the youngest fighters. Like, don't wait till you have the money. Do it now. Be that professional fighter, and you will become that professional fighter. Don't wait till you're in the UFC. Start now.
So you think that's a good thing? So instead of taking the hobbyist viewpoint, think I'm an athlete. I need to
Yeah,
look
so I'm
after
a
myself.
professional athlete. That's how you have to come, and you will become that.
Because I've seen you mention like suction cap therapy, massages, and things like that. Do you think that's a sort of recovery protocol that everybody needs to do to have the?
Yeah, I think they should. Like, just think about it. People always saying, "I don't know if I can afford that," but look, you're spending money on weed, girls, and stuff. Like, take that money and put it into your dreams. No one said this is gonna be free or easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it. So
So
you
how?
got to be willing to make the sacrifices, and same way God made us sacrifice us, you got to be able to be willing to do the same for your dream.
I love that. I love that outlook of just like it's like give up some small vices just now to get the future that you want. You know,
Exactly.
so how do you like plan your week? Do you kind of go in and just do what the coaches say, or are you going in and thinking, I'm going to work on my striking, I'm going to go in and do my grappling this week, or do you break down your weaknesses and look at your strengths? How much game tape do you look at the opponent? How do you kind of start planning, or do you just let your inner Terrance come out and play?
I just listen to my coach, whatever they think I should work on, whatever combination they think that's gonna get the job done in a fight. I trust that, and I drill it religiously, and I trust in God, and I just do what I'm told. At the end of the day, nothing's possible without a support team. And that's what they realize. A lot of fighters think they can just do this on their own, but you got to be willing to pay your management and all them, because without them, you ain't got time to do that if you're really an athlete training and doing all. So stay humble and know that those sacrifices will be worth it at the end of the day.
I mean, you've got some great humility. You seem to always give thanks to everybody else, and it's always a team thing rather than just yourself. And you can feel that humility you have for what got you there, your family, your gym family. Where does that come from? Do you think?
It wasn't always easy because it's hard to stay humble when you're out there winning. You're like, what is this coach really doing for me? Like, I'm putting this gym on, but I had to realize, like, that's not cool to be thinking like that, man. That's prideful. None of this, like, these guys set me up to be able to train for free. Like, they go out of their neck for me. Like, I'm just like anyone else, and I had to realize that. And God helped me get through all that pride stage and thinking I can do this on my own. You can't heal on your own. You got to be able to talk your feelings out. That's the only way you're going to be able to heal. That's the only way you're going to be able to prove. You got to be willing to set your pride aside and know that we're all just regular people.
So when when you were going through that whole addiction issue, and you were giving up the substance abuse and stuff, did you ever go through therapy? Did you go and speak to a therapist or a counselor anytime?
Yeah, I went to Riverside Recovery and I graduated from there. So, and I just finally set my pride aside and not think I'm better than those people there. Like, I didn't need no help. And like I said, setting your pride aside is a huge thing. And you start to realize what people say was right. Pride blinds a lot of people when you think you're right or you think you don't need help.
Because I've done cognitive behavior therapy. It's like the talking therapy, like to get through depression and OCD and
Yeah,
things like that. And it's remarkable, isn't it, when you first start it, of how you don't want to share anything. You don't want to give anything to this stranger in a room, and you don't want to tell the truth. You don't want to say how you truly feel. But for guys who are sitting there, they've got the ego and they're thinking, I'm not telling her that I'm feeling lonely or desperate or whatever it is. What advice would you give to those, like wannabe gangsters, wannabe like tough guys, and say to them, be open, be honest, be vulnerable to make that change like you did?
yeah. It just being willing to open up and be vulnerable. It's hard. But like I said, tell people just give that hurt to God. And He can heal you, man. Trust me. I had to find my faith. I lose it sometimes, but I always try to find my way back.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
So, how would you advise people, say the ones who are not religious? Is there a way that you had friends who've made that transformation as well, who have maybe not had the spiritual side?
Yeah, man, because when they see in the blessings, they see what God's doing in my life, and I told them like I was doing good, but soon as I got prideful, start boasting myself, I stopped seeing success. Soon as I start giving God the glory, look how fast like my career escalating. Every time I'm seeing someone succeeding or at the highest level, they always giving thanks to God. Just look what God's doing. People like look at Cooper Cup. They talked about how he said he put God first, and now this dude one of the baddest wide receivers in the NFL. You can see it every time.
I love it. I love how open and honest you are about things. But for those like listening, do you think that's part of your? It's the fact that you're open to feedback, that you go into the coach and say, "Guide me," tell me what I need to do, and you look at him and say, like, as a mentor, as like a journeyman that's going to show you the path to go to the championship.
Yeah, it's just yeah, exactly. I just listen to my coaches, because they're gonna see the stuff I won't see because like I'm not looking for the same thing. Like I'm thinking just fighters wise. At the end of the day, it's just gonna be instinct out there. But that's what they show me. I need a game plan, and that's how you guys seeing me get these first round finishes because I'm willing to accept that. Just because I'm skillful, don't mean I don't need help or I don't need a game plan.
Because you see that, don't you? There's a lot of young fighters, a lot of young grapplers, is they think, "Oh, I know it all. Yeah, I've got a
Yeah,
couple of wins. Well, who are you to tell me? I'm just going to do my own thing."
yeah.
And they don't realize they're a coach for a good reason. Um,
Exactly. They're like, I don't need you paying the gym fees, yeah, yeah, I'm winning, but that's not what champions do, man.
so, can you give a little insight then? Like, how do you start preparing for your fights? Like, how do you start training? How do you start thinking, okay, you're coming up to a competition? Do you still get nerves? Do you have a mantra? Do you do like meditation away from it?
I just text on my phone. I like to not think about the fight at all until I'm in the cage. It's
So,
because if you watch all the best fighters, like being composed, they're composed. You see no words. You see their heart rate's controlled. They're calm, and that's kind of what I want to implement. I see what the best are doing, so I just implement that in my game. They're not focused on the fight. They're letting things come to them, and once they start out there and then they hit that bell, that's when the savage wakes up.
That's awesome. How and do you have that kind of like a beast mode kind of button that you press? Well, just before the fight starts, are you thinking of a particular thing, or do you just think, "Let's go," and just let your
Soon as I
creativity
hear
flow?
that bell, fireworks, baby. We drilled the combinations. I know what stuff to hit, and we're going to work. We drilled the timing. We trained with guys' height. There's no need to do no filling out for me, baby. Soon as that bell, bing, 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 just know I'm coming out there hot. Let's go.
And is that what you do in training? You just keep on practicing the drills until a point
I
where you can do it with your eyes closed?
Yeah, exactly. I'm practicing the combinations until just muscle memory.
Because that's what I think I've seen with a lot of top competitors. It's that moment of you fall back to the lowest point of your training. So if you've trained to the best of your ability, you know that in that pressurized situation, you're going to go in and become where your training is taking you, not the situation. You're going to fall into your training situation. So is it just multiple rounds of like king of the mat, regular rounds of people? How do you keep this intensity, this level of skills?
Um, just doing my reps. Like I said, I practice probably everything thousands of times when I'm at home, when I'm alone. Just being obsessed. All the best people ask them, they become obsessed with their crafts. You gotta be. That should be all you think about, doing whatever it takes to be the best in all aspects of the game. Whether that's media, whether that's fighting, whether there's press conference, how you talk, and just carrying yourself as a champion.
Now, you had a couple of losses at the start of your journey. How did you look at that as a learning curve and think, because you went from a couple of losses on the trot, I think one was a doctor stoppage, and now you've gone to winning four in a row in under 2 minutes. How do you stop thinking, "Oh, I'm a loser because I've lost," and instead you use them as sort of like fuel, like juice to kind of go and go, I'm going to go and take the world by storm now?
Yeah, it's just fuel, man. Wrestling prepared me for this. That was the time I was had 6 losses in a row wrestling, man, and then I ended up being a 2-time state champion. So, like I tell people, don't. It might seem like you're losing now, but your wins right around the corner, man. Don't give up.
Could you say that, like, you're working 24/7, you're training, you're thinking about fighting, you're doing everything and anything to get that belt. So what's your philosophy towards diet, nutrition? Do you eat like particular foods? Do you have an off season where you just go mad
Yeah,
and have
what?
your
Yeah,
rest meals?
yeah. Whenever I'm not fighting, I'm eating whatever I want. But for the weight cuts and stuff, I'm locked in. I'm eating healthy a month in all the way through. Just avoiding pastas and bread and stuff like that. Just taking in the right stuff. Fish. I got my nuts and just everything on deck. My fruits and stuff, and just lots of water. 2 gallons almost a day.
Because you've said about like you try to stay at the same weight roughly, you're fighting shape and you're ready to go regardless. Why do you think people struggle with their weight, like as fighters? How do you find it? Do you find it easy?
I just don't wait till the last moment to start. I tell every fighter to probably start your weight cut 3 weeks out.
So, what kind of work do you do to start losing that weight? Is that like road running with sweatsuits? Do you go into saunas with the bike? Do you have a kind of a tried and tested method for weight cutting?
Like I said, just sauna, eating better, water loading, and just I like to just work it out, just work out, get in the sauna, do whatever I can to sweat it out instead of just being lazy. It's because and cutting weight and working out is just gonna help your cardio get even better by the time you fight.
So, where does the like once you've gone on and you've competed, etc., and you've gone training, you've lost the weight, etc. What other habits do you think you do that has benefited you? Do you do like journaling? Do you read? What makes you the Terrance that we know?
Um, I'm just obsessed with the craft. I'm always watching grappling videos with some cool technique. Just bringing different stuff to the game that people haven't seen.
So when you go in and training, are you going in and thinking, I'm going to have a play around here, I'm going to try this, I'm going to, you know, I don't care if I get tapped, but I'm going to go and think, I'll try a spinning back fist here, I'll try
Yeah,
a
I'm trying
rolling.
everything. Practice is the place to make your mistakes, so you don't have to in your fight.
So where does this confidence come from? Like, because I love that in every interview that I've listened to, you're laughing, you're joking, and you're so honest about things. Where does your inner confidence come from? Because sometimes, like I've known friends who have had incidents and it's destroyed them. You've used this to go and inspire so many people. Where does this come from?
Um, just growing up, my mom, and it's just a lot of things, just a lot of life experiences, I would say.
And do you think that's something is that we have to go through these hardships that where it's almost like we're becoming not soft, but we should need to keep challenging ourselves
Yeah,
to find out what we're
exactly.
capable.
Exactly. If your dream doesn't scare you, just know it's not big enough.
And how have you started dealing with this transition to becoming a fighter now? How do you find the media, the girls, the attention, the interviews? Would you prefer just to be fighting, or how do you deal with all that commitments now?
Um, I'm always willing to help people on their podcast, because like I want to see you guys grow too. Because you putting your stuff on the line, putting money into this, so I want to see you guys get big with whatever dream you're chasing as well. So I just give everyone their time, It's if I can, I try to give back to the community or to the podcast people, to anyone, because in my eyes, God told us we're all family. So you're my brothers and sisters. So if I can help you guys out, I will.
And how would you like to help people? What's the sort of the Terrance brand? If you had to look at a way, how would you like to inspire and help people going forward?
Just by sharing my testimony, speaking at high schools, um, just being willing to answer questions that people aren't willing to. Just being just being there to talk to people if they need to text or needing some advice, be there for them.
And where do you think young kids go wrong? Is there like, if they were going on a journey where they were maybe sliding down the wrong path, is there something that you kind of notice that you think, okay, I'm going down, I need to change here? Or what could kids look for or use as a kind of, would they use your story as a changing point?
Just set your pride aside, and if something bothers you that person said, it's probably something you need to hear, and you should take that advice and look to be better. Because in a certain moment, you're gonna realize those people are right, and you're like, "Dang, I should have just listened." So don't wait to listen. Listen now to your elders, to your coaches, to your mom, to whoever's that person that father mother figure to you in your life.
I just love how like you're into your early 20s and you've got a viewpoint that a lot of people only discover when they're like 50 or 60. You've realized that like pride and ego doesn't get us anywhere. What do you think makes us good men? Or, what do you think? What's your definition of masculinity?
A good man is a person that loves his family, loves his significant other, a person that's gonna uplift his brothers and help them win, and not be selfish and only looking out for yourself, not cutting corners, just being a leader and a person someone can talk to.
And what are you most proud of in your life?
Um, Finally be able to make my mom proud and my siblings.
I love that. And say you had a kid just now and they were going down that path. Or they wanted to go into the UFC example. What would your opinion be in that situation?
I'll support them, and I'll just tell them what it costs to get there and what sacrifices they need to make, and say, "Are you willing to do this?" And if you are, I'm gonna support you 110% throughout your whole journey, whatever you need.
Now,
But you
this
gotta
is
be
something
willing to give 110%.
that's awesome. Well, I've got some fast break questions. Now, these are questions that I throw out, and I just use them as sort of prompts. So, if you just say back what comes into your mind. So, if you had to close your eyes and think back to your childhood, what meal that your mom made sums up childhood for you?
Uh, I would say her pork chops and gravy and rice meal, bussin'.
Oh, that sounds nice. I could have that just now. What's your favorite podcast? Do you listen to podcasts?
Sometimes I like the Joe Rogan podcast.
And is there a particular film, a band, or a song that you would just listen to in continuous loop that just gets you primed up and ready?
Yeah, talking to my skill by Young Dolph.
Good choice. And what's a guilty pleasure of yours? Like what's something that you still do now that it's bad for you? Is it like eating ice cream? Is it having a few beers? Like when you're not training?
I would say beating my meat. I'm just kidding.
Oh, we all do that, man. We all do that. I'm 24/7 on that. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I gotta get my testosterone right. Stop being addicted to porn for sure.
What's your opinion then about having sex before a fight? Do you think it's baloney, or are you the kind
No,
of
I
like
agree,
I need it?
man. I definitely be feeling in my legs if I if I did a girl and I'm out there training and stuff. So
And are you dating just now?
yeah.
How does she feel about this journey, this like success that this explosion onto the scene that you have?
Um, she supports me. We're a team, We do everything half and half. So
And what do you have in your training bag? Do you have like must have things such as like do you have a certain brand of tape that you like, a certain
nah,
style
for
of
me it
boxing
don't
gloves?
matter as long as I got gloves and shin pads. Let's get to work.
I love it. So this might be a weird question for you. Now you've got 5 people in addition to yourself. They can be real or fake, alive or dead. This is your dream dinner party. Who are you inviting to that dinner party?
I'm gonna need Jay-Z there, Drake. Um, who else? Who else? I'm gonna need Elon Musk there. Uh, that's 3, right? I got 2 more.
You got 2 more.
Dan Brazilian. And who else?
You gonna leave your mom out, do you think, or are you gonna
My
have a
mom
night for the
probably
boys?
already be there. We're a team, so she's already counted on the list.
That's like mine.
And
She'd be doing the cooking, like.
I'll bring my best friend, Amjad Benjamin.
And do you ever struggle? Do you ever look back at that and think, that's the life that do you ever miss that life, or are you just so now focused on the new Terrance and the journey you're on now?
I wouldn't change any of those moments because they made me who I'm in today. So, no, I'll stick to where I'm at right now. But I'm not satisfied. Like I told you guys, this is just the beginning.
So the overall goal is to fight to get the championship. How do you start planning that long term? What's your goals? Like, how many fights do you think it'll take? Are you thinking of switching weight classes, or are you just leaving it in the hands of your coaches and just doing the work day in day out?
That starts with Ferris and whatever fight they have for me next. I'm just gonna take it one fight at a time and keep pushing myself every camp.
I love it. And what message would you want people who are listening to this to take from it? This is going to be like the start of a new series. I want to inspire people and give them that kind of like these short interviews where they go, yeah, I need to go and get my training on now. I need to change my life. What advice would you want people to take from this?
Tell them trust the process. Don't look for shortcuts in your journey to your dream. Be willing to give it all you got. Don't go half in. Go 2 feet forward. Jump in. Dive in. And trust in your support team around you. Trust in God, and just be willing to never give up.
Power. And how can people keep in touch with you? How can we get, how can like anybody struggling get in and speak to you? How can we follow your social media? Like you were talking about wanting to go and speak to schools and stuff. How can people follow your journey and connect with you?
Everyone can reach me at T.Wrecks 155 on Instagram and Twitter, and T.Wrecks 95 on TikTok. Feel free to reach me out to me. I'll get to you as soon as I can.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.